Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Saturday, September 2nd. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Indiana game is today. The game against Michigan in 84 days. Yes, Ohio State football season is back. We will be in Bloomington all day, bringing you coverage of the Buckeyes and the Hoosiers. Should be a lot to talk about. But there's a lot of other things going on around the college football world today. We're going to be talking about some of that this morning as well. My guest today is Tony Gerdeman of BuckeyeHuddle.com. He will be joining me in Bloomington a little later on today, covering the Buckeyes and Hoosiers. But first, Tony, we got to talk about another massive college football game. You can tell it's a big one because it airs on a streaming channel. It is noon on Peacock. Michigan minus 36 against East Carolina. Michigan favored by more than 5 touchdowns against the team that is considered perhaps their best non-conference opponent. No Jim Harbaugh today. I suspect it probably won't matter.
I would suspect it won't matter at all. In fact, Jim Harbaugh could be playing quarterback, and I'd still like Michigan by 3.5 touchdowns.
This feels like, we're going to do a Michigan Monday show on Monday, and we're going to watch this game, and we're going to tell you what we learned, and I don't know how much we're really going to learn. There's probably going to be a lot of, okay, hey, this guy's playing here, and oh, this is a little bit of a different alignment than we expected them to run with, or whatever. It is not a great non-conference schedule for the second year in a row for Michigan, but there's no Jim Harbaugh, so there'll be plenty of stuff for the announcers to talk about. So you have that going for you, which is nice. Something Tennessee has going for it is Joe Milton can throw a football over them mountains. He is favored by 28 points over Virginia. This is another one it's a noon game on ABC. Two teams wearing orange. Tennessee's last game was also a team against a team wearing orange. They beat Clemson in the the Orange Bowl last year, I think. The truly Orange Bowl. Explain to me the Joe Milton hype other than the fact that he is basically Uncle Rico.
I'm with you, and I've seen. We watched him at Michigan, and we saw him lose his job at Michigan. Very inaccurate quarterback, big arm, big whoop. The accuracy wasn't there, so it doesn't matter. But he had a good bowl game last year, but he was also inconsistent throughout the season when he got to play. He's also lost a job at Tennessee as well. Hendon Hooker took it from him. So I'm in the I need to see it, and I've grown tired almost of hearing many different talking heads just assuming he's like Hendon Hooker, but he's got a better arm. And I think it's a little disrespectful to what Hendon Hooker was able to do for this Tennessee program last year, the way he essentially put them on his back and on his knee and took them to heights that they haven't seen in a while. So I want to see it from Joe Milton first, and I don't know that seeing it against Virginia really convinces me of anything, but it would be nice if he completed like 75 or 80% of his passes and actually completed some downfield and found some tight windows. But like I said, I'll believe it when I see it, and I don't know that I'll believe it in week 1, even if I see it.
Yeah, if I see Joe Milton completing passes downfield into tight windows, I will change my tune on this one. I don't know how tight the windows are really going to be. Virginia might be like bad this year, so Tennessee probably by a bunch in that one. Speaking of teams that might be bad, TCU minus 20.5, playing Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, Tony. All the Fox promos, can't wait to tell you about Coach Prime. They don't mention his 31 scholarship football players or whatever the heck he has. I think there are like 12 or 15 guys who are back from last year. The error bars on this Colorado season are about as big as I can possibly imagine. Like, if everything goes right, maybe this is almost a bowl team, maybe, but what if everything goes wrong and with the offensive line and defensive line being maybe not even close to Power 5 caliber, this might not go well for Colorado.
It's like over-under is like 63.5, and it feels like it should be under, but there's also a concern that TCU will get all 63.5 of those points because you just don't know what to expect. And sure, Colorado has Shedeur Sanders, and they've got some talent here and there, but I just don't know how well all of these parts are going to come together as one right away. This is not a great place to start, and it feels like it's going to take some time for Colorado. And I'm not expecting it. Everybody's going to look at it and watch it just to see, but it might be more of a car wreck than a car race.
Yeah, that's going to be, I think, a little bit of a work in progress for Colorado this year. It might work in a year or two, but just when you completely tear it down to the studs, you usually have a year or so of work. That is the big noon game on Fox. Next up, noon on Fox Sports 1. Brian Ferentz, minus 25 versus unemployment. Iowa, minus 23.5 versus Utah State. Over-under on this one is 43, so the implied score between the line and the over-under is 33 to 10. Utah State probably not very good this year, but can Brian Ferentz get off to a good enough start to stay on the positive side of the unemployment line?
Well, the good news is quarterback Cade McNamara is banged up and questionable, so that is fantastic for the Iowa offense that is a question mark and has added some pieces. They've tried, Eric All, tight end for Michigan, Cade McNamara also for Michigan, of course, Caleb Brown from Ohio State. So they're trying, at least with their roster. We'll see if they're trying through their offensive coordinating and their play calling this season. But anytime you're allowed to take an under and Iowa is involved and their quarterback is banged up, I'm not going to give anybody advice, but
it does seem like the stars may be aligning there. But man, that is a low under. Again, 43. That is, you're not going to see very many games in the low 40s. We saw some in the 30s last year for Iowa. They should be better than that. But yeah, it could be a not that thrilling game. Tony, let's talk about a much better game and one where I kind of think maybe I'm looking at the over. That is Washington favored by 2 touchdowns against Boise State, 3:30 on ABC. This is one of the better games of the week. Over under in that one, 58.5. Boise State's not what Boise State used to be, but they're going to score, they'll get you partway there. And this could be a real good year for Michael Penix in Washington. I think they know they've got to put on a little bit of a show here. You want to get off to a good start. This is a game everyone's going to be watching. An 11-1 Pac-12 champ is not necessarily going to get into the playoff if you have an 11-1 Texas and an 11-1 Florida State and an 11-1 Big Ten team and an 11-1 SEC team. So I think you've got to take your opportunities to make an impression here. Am I crazy over 58.5 on this one?
I don't think you're crazy. I think there is a concern, though, Tom. Is there a chance that Michael Penix has Saberhagen syndrome, where he only has good years every other year and he can't put it together twice in 2 years? We saw him outstanding in 2020 at Indiana, then was bad in 2020 at Indiana, and then was somehow inexplicably awesome last year. What's he going to be this year? Everybody is expecting him to be great, just like they expected him to be great in 2021, and he wasn't. But he's got more weapons around him. He's got more playmakers around him. There are playoff talks around Washington. I think with the Pac-12, as you said, is just going to be crazy and fun. And it's a shame that more people didn't support it and watch them. And now the conference is going away. But I think, I'm with you. This is going to be pretty high scoring. Let's see how well the Washington defense performs. But you got to figure they're gonna let Michael Penix throw the ball around and maybe try to get him to New York this year.
Yeah, and this is a rare opportunity for them to play in a network that people actually get in their homes, so can't pass that up as well. Another network that people get in their homes, NBC, Big Ten going to be on there. The 3:30 game, of course, on CBS is the Buckeyes in Indiana, and we talked about that on the Friday episode of Buckeye Weekly, so if you want to hear a preview of that, you can hear that there. 7:30 on NBC, Penn State, a basically just shy of 3-touchdown favorite against West Virginia. This used to be a really cool rivalry, not quite the backyard brawl, not quite Penn State Pitt, but kind of the third leg of that triangle. This was a rivalry back in the day, back in the Major Harris days. Not so much now. They haven't played it very much. And West Virginia, not great. This is an opportunity, I think, for Penn State to make a little bit of a statement as well. If Penn State comes out and struggles here, I think I'd have some concerns. They just lost an offensive lineman for the season. So that's Langdon Tengwall, one of their starting guards. He's out. So there's a little bit of a concern there. The offensive line should be much better than Penn State has been in the past. You finally get Drew Aller. Penn State fans, their wish has finally come true. They finally have Drew Aller as a starting quarterback. What's it going to look like on Saturday night?
I think you're going to see him hand the ball off to two very good running backs, and Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, and try to build on that play action. The good news is they've got a really good defense. There are some sneaky playoff hopes for Penn State. Obviously, I think they have a really good shot at the Big Ten championship as well. But we'll see if Drew Aller is that guy or is he Graham Mertz. I don't think it's going to be that bad. But I think there are still questions until you do it. But I think the expectations are very high. Is there enough skill at receiver around him to really bring out all of his best assets? Maybe, maybe not. But you've got the running game to allow the defense to focus on that and then take advantage of it through the air. So I'm looking forward to seeing this defense, this Penn State defense, which should be very good. And then also, are we seeing a new quarterback star in college football in Drew Aller?
And we will find that out, at least start finding that out on Saturday night. We probably won't know that until they play Michigan and Ohio State a little later on in the season. But right now I can hear everyone saying, are all the games terrible this weekend? Because we have not had a single game with a point spread under 2 touchdowns. Don't worry, we're wrapping up with 3, finishing strong here. North Carolina, a 2.5-point favorite at South Carolina, 7:30 on ABC. Tony, I mean, I'm familiar with Drake May. I know who he is. I'm sure we're going to hear NFL draft talk every single time North Carolina is on TV this year. Talk me out of taking the Gamecocks and the points here.
I'm with you. When I first saw that line earlier in the week, I thought, shouldn't the plus be the other way? How is South Carolina not the favorite here? But I think North Carolina returns like 9 starters from their defense last year, which
is that a good thing?
That's the question, Tom. That's exactly the question. But it is, there's some familiarity there with the defense at least. So I'm expecting kind of a shootout in this one, and it's maybe dangerous to predict a shootout in the first week of the season when teams are still figuring each other out and the offenses are still a question mark. But you've got 2 established quarterbacks here with Drake May, Spencer Rattler. I think those 2 guys are going to just fire it up, and I think this will be a fun one. I think it's going to be a pretty good atmosphere, and I think it's a split crowd. So if it was in South Carolina, I'm guessing the Gamecocks would be the favorite there. But I'm looking forward to watching some of this one, perhaps, and I'm with you. I like South Carolina here.
All right, I don't get to do this much because this is a college football show. Tony, Sunday, 7:30 on ABC. Bigfoot, touchdown favorite over Gravedigger. No, it is LSU, 2.5 points favorite against Florida State. This one's in Orlando. This is one where this is almost unquestionably the game of the week. Tony, they're going to sell you the whole seat, but you're only going to need the edge. Who you got?
First off, how many more monster trucks can you name?
Did I already say Gravedigger and Bigfoot?
I believe there was also a Barefoot, but that's the 3 that I remember. Anyway, not to derail this, that's for our other podcast, Monster Truck Weekly. I'm looking for maybe perhaps a shootout in this one as well, as much as a shootout as you can have against these 2 defenses, which should be pretty good. You get a couple of good quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels and Florida State's quarterback, who has slipped my mind right now.
Jordan Travis. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I've been looking at a lot of college football lately. But both of those guys making plays, and really, they're both Heisman contenders. So let's see them be that in this game. If this was in Tallahassee, I'd go ahead and take Florida State to win outright. I still like them. LSU, for me, sometimes they're a slow starter, and then they build as the season goes on. But also, Florida State is a slow starter and then also a slow finisher. So I'm interested to see if this is actually Florida State is as good as everybody seems to want to think they are. But I won't be shocked by a Florida State win here. I wouldn't either. LSU's a little banged up in the secondary. That is maybe something to sort of keep an eye on. One quick note on Monster Truck Weekly. The name's a little misleading. It's actually a daily podcast, even though it's called weekly. I'm just kidding. What kind of idiots would do that with a show? Come on. Don't be ridiculous. Last one up, Monday night, 8 p.m., ESPN, wrapping up your weekend. Clemson, 13-point favorite at Duke. Duke was so good in Mike Elko's first season, won 9 games, which is basically unheard of to do that at Duke in a sport other than men's basketball. But, that he is a defensive guy. This is Clemson, and, I know they've shuffled their coaching staff, and I know Cade Klubnik is a 5-star, and he's coming in, so everything's going to be great, and it's automatically going to be fine. Under 55.5 here. I mean, I think Clemson wins this. Under 55.5, though, feels like that's very much in play.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And if not for the questions about is the Clemson offense really fixed? Garrett Riley as the offensive coordinator has a good history, so you're like, probably, perhaps. But you look at Duke last year, 4 losses by 16 total points, biggest losses by 8 points. Of course, they didn't play anybody. They haven't played Clemson in a handful of years. So the best team they played last year, I think, was Pittsburgh, and so I would like to even take the points, but I'm not brave enough to do that. I do think it's going to be a fun, interesting game. It's the last game of the week, Labor Day weekend. You've had a full weekend of football, and this is like just maybe a little bit of dessert for you, and perhaps you fall asleep during it, and you wake up, and you're like, oh, what a great weekend.
What a great weekend. Now I have to go to work. That is extremely the vibe here. You fall asleep with 7 minutes left in the third quarter, and then you wake up on the couch at 3:30 in the morning and your alarm's going off in 2.5 hours. That's exactly the vibe here. But don't worry, before that happens, you have a full weekend of football to enjoy. No NFL to ruin everything and get in the way. It is college football all the way down, and we've just hit on some of the games of the weekend here. Many, many more. So enjoy the first full-blown weekend of college football 2023. We will be taking in the Buckeyes in Indiana, 3:30 p.m. CBS, and you can watch it on CBS, but you know where to go for postgame. That is youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. You know where to go for your actual entertainment during the game. That is BuckeyeHuddle.com, and our message board, our game thread. Fantastic community there. Should be lots of stuff to talk about. Tony and Kevin and I will be in Bloomington covering all of that. Mentioned on yesterday's show, Mark Griffler down in Georgia covering some very, very big-time high school football games this weekend. A couple 5-star Ohio State commits, a couple 5-star non-Ohio State commits. Lots of stuff going on this weekend at BuckeyeHuddle.com. So listen, we talk about this all the time. Like, hey, you should sign up sometime. Okay, let's be more specific. You should sign up right now. This is a great time to sign up. Get access to our full weekend of coverage, our full community this weekend. Plus, you sign up for a month, give it a try. Guess what? Guess what else happens in that first month? Youngstown State, Western Kentucky, Notre Dame. There's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about. You also get a bye week in there. So you did get a weekend off in that first month. Get a little taste of everything there at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Give it a try. Sign it up today. If you like it, great news. You can stick around for the rest of the year for a discounted rate on an annual plan. But if you've never signed up for a membership site, get access to our fantastic team of insiders. Lots of insight, lots of analysis on the team, on recruiting, X's and O's, much, much more, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And again, we say this pretty much every show, but we really mean it this time. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Hit that bell. Make sure you are notified when we go live. We have our full post-game coverage plan for live immediately as soon as that game ends. Should be a full team coverage, insight, analysis, post-game interviews. Tony and I doing our Buckeye Weekly instant reaction shows. These are always some of the most popular shows we do all year long. Make sure you are on there. We answer lots of questions, lots of interaction with our audience. So make sure you are there for all the fun, all the action, all at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. That will do it for today. Please enjoy the football. We will see you a little later on.